Good afternoon. We will start in a moment.
No worries, I got this. Very good, thank you.
Theater lighting.
So, yeah, thank you, thanks for. Yeah. I'm gonna want to sit there. It was fine. Okay. Am I chairing? Oh, you're going to be nominated. Oh, okay. They do that. We have glasses. You're not that age. Call to order. We're going to start with welcome introductions and identification of voting members. So let's start over at Josh's side, and then we go down Oscar and then John and so on. Yes.
Hi, Josh Kurpius, City of Santa Monica, not a voting member.
City Council Member Oscar de la Torre, City of Santa Monica, voting member.
Council Member John Heilman, West Hollywood, voting member today.
Hernan Molina, City of West Hollywood staff.
Lester Friedman, City of Beverly Hills, voting member.
Cindy Owens, City of Beverly Hills, not a voting member.
Lauren Langer, counsel for the COG. Winnie Fong with the West Side Cities COG.
Cecilia Solano, Executive Director of the COG.
Göran Eriksson, Culver City, voting member.
Brian, Culver City, non-voting member.
Austin Sear, alternate for supervisor, Bath, voting.
Thank you. That moves us over to the action items, and we have a number of them. So, sorry.
Chair, should we introduce others in the room and anyone
Oh,
online?
sorry. Yeah. Good. Thank you. And then if we have anyone on the online also. So.
No
if you
problem. This is Riley O'Brien, analyst with the West Side Cities COG.
Hello, everyone. I'm Jeff Cow, planning deputy for Tracy Park, City of LA, non-voting.
Hi, Shelley Wolfberg, assistant to the city manager for City of Culver City.
Dorothy Lasuchkova, transportation and mobility planning manager for the City of Culver City.
Anybody online?
Should we move to anyone online?
Yeah.
This is Lauren Wren, associate planner with City of Culver City.
This is David Fenn, senior planner with the City of West Hollywood.
And I'm Nicole Liner-Jagamian, analyst with the City of Santa Monica.
I think I saw Lauren in the audience here.
Okay.
Thank you. That then moves us over to action items. We have a number of them, but they've been well prepared by staff. So, and I hope you read all the documents. So let's move through them here. We start with the board meeting notes. I can get a motion for approval.
So moved.
We have a second. We have a motion, Hellman, second Friedman. Any further discussion? Hearing none, let's vote. So everyone in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Motion carried. Thank you. Then we have 3B. That's the Measure M multi-year sub-regional program annual update. So.
We're going to have Riley take that one. Okay.
And yes, I can provide a brief introduction. Basically, this is our annual update for the Metro sub-regional funds that are provided to the West Side cities under Measure M as part of Measure M, the sales tax. And we have Fair and Peers, our consultant, who has prepared the original allocation back in 2021 and each annual update in the past 2 years, and is back again to present us with the annual update for 2024. So I will pass it over to Chelsea.
Thank you. Is this on? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Great. Thanks, everybody. My name is Chelsea Richer. I'm a principal with Fair and Peers, and I'm here today to provide a brief update on the MSP annual update. This presentation is going to look quite familiar. I was here last board meeting to talk about the allocation of funds for this cycle. And so today I'm going to talk about basically how those funds are being programmed towards projects in the subregion. Next slide, please. I'm going to give a little bit of background on the original allocation in 2021, as well as the 22 and 23 updates, just to make sure everyone has that background together. And then I'm going to talk through the 2024 proposed revisions to the MSP project list, and then we'll talk through timeline and next steps from this point forward. So our first 2021 year was coming on the heels of the mobility study that was adopted in 2020 and identified the main priorities for active transportation and first last mile around the subregion. That is the category of spending that MSP funds support for this subregion, active transportation and first last mile. So everything you'll see on the project list falls within those categories. The allocation of funds from Measure M through the MSP line item has been allocated based on the distribution of population and employment across the 6 jurisdictions in the subregion. And so that's the numbers that you see on the left-hand side of this table, the first initial allocation, followed by essentially every column is the choices that were made by every city or every jurisdiction each year. In 2021, how those funds were programmed. Then there's annual cash flows that come through from Metro every year. So we get new cash flows added to the balance, then they're programmed again in 22, new cash flows added to the balance for another future year, 26, 27 fiscal year, then 23 programmed, and finally the new cash flows that we received for fiscal year 27, 28 just this past October. And so all of the funding choices that you see, the negatives in those programmed columns, are essentially the choices that were made each year for each jurisdiction, how they wanted to allocate their funding to the project list. And for those cities that chose not to allocate any funding, that just accrued and maintained in their sort of account each year. So if there was a 0 in one of those programmed years, it doesn't mean that money goes away. It just means it continues to accrue year over year. So that green box on the right-hand side is what we were working with this year. That's the total available funding for each jurisdiction, a little bit under $25 million available this year to program if the cities and jurisdictions chose to. Next slide. So in 2021, we started with this list, 3 to 4 projects per jurisdiction, roughly. LA County chose not to allocate any funds in there yet. And West Hollywood had one primary project they were looking at on Willoughby. Next slide, please. In 2022, we made some changes. We consolidated Beverly Hills projects into one single line item and broadened the scope and the description of that line item to include all of the activities in those other 2 project lines. We modified some of the funding years. So in the MSP, you have to decide what year you're going to spend it in as well as what category. And so some of those years of programming changed, but no major changes to the project list otherwise in 22. Next slide. And then in 23, there were a couple of changes. There was a new project added in Culver City, Sepulveda mobility lanes were added. And in West Hollywood, Fountain Protected Bike Lane was added and actually replaced Willoughby as the priority for that year. So Willoughby was taken off the list last year, and we'll see in this update this year is put back on the list with Fountain together with the new funding allocation. Next slide. So sorry for the giant wall of text here, but this is the 2024 proposed project list. All of the projects that were on the list before are still listed here with the exception of the couple that got rolled into project number 8, which is the Consolidated Beverly Hills project. And then we have 2 new projects being added this year. So that's project 18 and 19 on the list. Move Culver City, the eastern segment, is a new project being programmed with new funding. And Westwood Boulevard Safety Project from LeConte to Expo Boulevard Bike Path is a new project that's being programmed in the city of LA with new program funding. Everything else is a modification of a project that's already on the list. For Willoughby, we've added it back to the list and we've programmed the available funding. For Broadway, Wilshire, La Cienega, and Rodeo Drive Purple Line Extension, those three are modifying some programming years as well as adding additional funding. Microtransit and First Last Mile service in Culver City, as well as the Expo Bike Path, are just moving some of their funding years around. And then Connect Del Rey, Santa Monica to Westwood Stress-Free Bike Network, Bike Corridor, moving their programming years and adding funding. And finally, Brentwood is just modifying their programming years. So we've got some new projects on the list. We've got a lot of funding being added to existing projects to cover expanded project scopes or funding shortfalls, and some programming years changing. Next slide. So overall, the summary by jurisdiction this year, we had $24.6 million available to program. A total of 17.3 is being programmed this year into existing or new projects on the list. There's a remaining balance that's carrying over for these 6 jurisdictions of 7.3 million in total. And you can see how that breaks out jurisdiction by jurisdiction. And then the other changes in that last column are just funding that's being moved around. So that's not part of the new programming total or the total available. That was funding that had already been programmed and is just moving to different years. And that is the summary of all the changes this year. After today, assuming the COG board decides to approve this list and all the changes included in it, it will go to Metro staff for their review. They require a 60-day review period before it goes to the Metro board. And it does require roughly 2 months to be agendized for the board. So that date of finishing the staff review at the end of August puts us well in line with an October board Planning and Programming Committee on the 16th and board meeting on the 24th for approval. And then following that date, the money can start to be programmed into a funding agreement and spent on the projects. And that's everything for me.
Thank you. So any questions?
There are none. I'll move approval.
I think we
I
have a
believe
question
we
from
may
the
have public
audience.
comment.
Yeah.
Hello, everyone. I'm Kevin Burton. I'm a resident of West Hollywood, and I'm with the Bicycle Coalition here in town. And we are very pleased at the long list of projects proposed for funding by Measure M by the West Side Cities COG. And because we all know that there's a dire need for supporting methods of travel other than the car, given the congestion we all face in the West Side cities. In West Hollywood, we're very pleased to see that a city that is already well known for being walkable, supports pedestrian travel in a number of ways, is also now adding to that alternative to car travel friendliness, bicycle travel, with the 2 funding items listed for this city being bicycle lane projects. Firstly on Vista and Gardner Street, and secondly on Fountain Avenue. So we're very pleased by this effort by the city of West Hollywood. And in addition, we support an item that'll be later in your meeting for the sub-equity regional program, support of the bus routes, which in this area includes the Metro 105 bus that travels on La Cienega. It goes through 4 of the West Side cities, goes down to Jefferson, and then continues on Jefferson around the Baldwin Hills. So thank you very much for that support.
Thank you.
May I come up?
Yes.
Thank you. My name is Victor Omolchenko, and I'm a longtime resident of West Hollywood. And I just like to support what Mr. Burton had said from the West Hollywood Bicycle Coalition. I'm a member of that coalition. And I've been for years a bicyclist, enjoying and feeling much more safer over the last 20 years with the improvements that we've had to the infrastructure here throughout the county in our various cities. I love the green bike lanes in Beverly Hills as I leave my city of West Hollywood. It would be wonderful at some point if we could also have the bike lanes we already have painted green for safety purposes. And in looking over the list, what a bunch of improvements will happen if you decide budget on funding these infrastructure improvements. I must say that with the Beverly Hills bike lanes that I feel much safer on going along Santa Monica, I just read with dismay that I guess the pilot project in Beverly Hills for the Roxbury bike lane, a protected bike lane, which was put in after much debate, appears to maybe going to be removed. So it would be nice to hear about what's happening with the protected bike lanes that have been established in Beverly Hills on Roxbury before they're removed, because that might then have an impact on how other cities look at protected bike lanes. Also, the fact that you're looking at improvements in Santa Monica, which I think has been a leader in bike lanes on Broadway and on Colorado, that's very, very important. And also, as Mr. Burton said, the improvements for busing and other forms of transportation. It is about the dinero, it is about the lure, it is about the groshi gengi and money. And it would be good. It would be nice to see these measures passed by you, and hopefully Metro staff will agree, and then maybe the Metro board will agree. And for the future comments, exactly how much time is allowed at these meetings for public comment? I love details.
Well, it's really depending on how many speakers you are, but I would say in this case, we allow for 3 minutes.
2 minutes?
3.
3 minutes. Thank you, Mr. Erickson.
And you are close to it now. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
We do have one comment online.
Yeah, I see Connor Webb.
You can now unmute yourself.
Hi, thank you for allowing me to speak. My name is Connor Webb. I just wanted to say I highly support the updated MSP project list, especially the new addition of Westwood Boulevard. However, I really urge the council and the relevant agencies to extend that project to meet with another project on the list, the Overland Ave bike lane project and the Safer Fox Hills project. Offering a protected active transportation corridor from Culver City all the way to UCLA's campus would just be essential for so many students and staff and faculty that make that trip every day. And so to have a gap from Venice Boulevard to the Expo Bike Path and to not have that programmed into this project list would just be a complete shame, in my opinion. So, definitely a focus on connectivity and an overall network view when making these project lists, I think is essential, and where the WSCOG can really make the most impact is to making sure that these projects are cohesive. So I think this is a great opportunity for that, and I really would urge the council to do that. Thank you.
Thank you. That ends the public comments, and I think I heard a motion from Mr. Heilman.
Yes, I'll move the staff recommendation.
Second. We have a second also, yeah, from De La Torre. Any further discussion? Hearing none, then let's go to vote. Everyone in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Okay, motion carried. Thank you. Moves us over to 3C, which is the funding agreement with Metro and contract amendment with Fair and Peers for professional services for the WSCCOG Measure M multi-year sub-regional program planning activities. Who wants to go on that one?
I will take on this. Next slide, Riley. All right. So as you all know, thank you for approving the MSP project list. We have an existing funding agreement with Metro for $94,000 through fiscal year 24-25 to plan and develop this project list for the multi-year sub-regional program, specifically for the active transportation first last mile connections program. This scope includes working with the consultant Fair and Peers to prepare the preliminary scope of work back in 5 years ago, as well as the 5-year MSP plan and subsequent annual updates to the MSP list. We've been informed by Metro that in our cash flow projections, we can program an additional $175,248 through fiscal year 2027 to 28 to continue updating the annual MSP. So we currently have a contract with Fear and Peer. So we propose that we allocate some of the funding to the consultant as well as our staff at the Westside City's COG to cover the additional 2 annual updates. Next slide, Riley. So for today's recommendation will be 3 parts. The first is to amend the existing funding agreement with Metro for the multi-year sub-regional program to increase the funds by 175,248 in additional funding through fiscal year 27-28. Second is to approve the allocation of the funding to Fear and Peers as well as the COG staff to conduct these MSP plan activities. And then we are still waiting for Metro to draft the amended agreement. So we are requesting the board to direct our legal counsel to review the forthcoming agreement, which should be substantially in the same format of the existing agreement that's attached in the agenda packet. And we also ask that the board direct the legal counsel to review the Metro amended agreement as well as the existing contract with Fear and Peers to extend their term of services through to June 2028 and include their additional contract amount by 147,500. By implementing these actions today would allow our cities to access these funds immediately and conclude our 2024 annual update, as well as initiate the 2025 update later this year. I think that's wraps up our report.
Thank you. Any questions?
I have one question. Why weren't these things on a consent calendar? It seems like these are fairly routine, including the minutes. So, but having said that, I'll move the recommendation.
Thank you for that comment. I think I never seen a consent calendar on Westside COG, actually. I can't recall that. Have we had that ever? No.
I was just going to say, I think it was everyone was a little bit uncomfortable because we don't have the funding agreement yet. And so I think that's why Winnie wanted to explain that we'll get the funding agreement, I'll review, and then we'll execute. But it's just a little bit out of order because we don't have the agreement.
But there isn't a problem with us using a consent calendar for these meetings.
No.
Okay, thank you.
No.
Good suggestion. I think we have a public comment. 3 minutes.
Has comments. Our city, and we get maybe 2 minutes to comment on a variety of consent. Things to share about consent items that are sort of passed en masse when there might. There and peers, different. I know that one of the projects on the Fountain Avenue bike lane improvement, that's something that will not only affect our city, but also folks who travel along what some of us call the Fountain Freeway, known as Fountain Avenue, actually a residential street, apartment buildings, and now. So I just wanted to bring up that kind of related to this item. As Fair and Peers does, I hope that in the future, Fair and Peers will also analyze what the park are along Fountain Avenue, because many people are at different time intervals looked at, not just in the morning, but also at night to see. What I've seen is our Fountain Avenue is about 50%. Fair and Peers needs to do that as well as this contract that you're approving.
Thank you,
Mr. Erickson.
I see nothing online, so we had a motion. Second. And it's To be clear, it consists of that we amend the funding agreement and then we approve the allocation of the funding for fear and peers. And then we direct our legal counsel to review and then authorize our executive director to amend agreement with Metro. Any further discussion? Okay, let's vote. Everyone in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Abstain?
Aye.
One abstain. Mr. Sir. Thank you. Motion carried. It moves us over to 3D. And that's the County Homelessness Regional Coordination Contract Amendment.
Yes, this is going to be a similar action. Next slide, Riley. As you can recall, back in April, this board approved the Local Solutions Fund for the county homelessness work for fiscal year 2024 to 25. This included allocating the funding among the jurisdictions as well as funding for the regional behavioral health facility implementation strategy. Next slide. So currently the county is working on the amending our contract, which will include the updated statement of work and pricing schedule. So formality wise, we are requesting to direct the legal counsel to review the forthcoming contract amendment, which should be substantially in the same format as the existing agreement that you see in the agenda packet. And if all things are good, then we authorize the chair to execute and amend the contract.
Thank you. Any questions?
I'll move approval.
We have a motion from Mr. Heilman. and
Second.
Second from Ms. Friedman. Any further discussion? Hearing none, let's vote. Everyone in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Abstain?
Aye.
We have one abstention, sir. Thank you. Motion carried. I wonder if, from legal here, if you can very, very briefly cover why this is going to be signed by the chair and the earlier was suggested to be by the executive director.
Oh, yes, because what we've approved in April was included an amended statement of work and pricing allocation. So I think that's appropriate for the chair to sign it versus the MSP, which was just extending the term and adding funding, which doesn't change the scope of work. So those are minor amendments, whereas this is a major amendment.
Thank you. Moves us over to E, which is the E1 is annual work plan for fiscal year 24-25. So I hope you all seen the work plan. Staff wants to make a quick.
I'll be very brief. You'll note we're continuing to focus primarily on transportation issues as well as housing and homelessness. You'll see some specific items related to the regional bus priority corridors design and development, really related also to the Olympics. You'll hear more about that later in our transportation committee report. Also, actually, positive note, REAP 2.0 did not get completely eliminated in the budget yet. We hope it'll hang on. So we have in our work plan that we'll be doing some REAP 2.0 project implementation. And then lastly, and I'm probably most excited about is really a newer area to have more intense and concentrated effort on trying to get the regional behavioral health facility implemented. WSCCOG has been very supportive, and in the previous item, just allocated funding to continue to move that forward. So we think this is a great year for us to really make some progress on that. So that's our work plan, and we urge approval. These are all things we've been talking about for most of the last year, and we are delighted to continue the efforts.
Thank you. Questions, comments? Hearing none, then the recommended action is that we approve the work plan, so I can entertain a motion.
A motion to.
I'll second.
Okay, motion from Friedman and second from Heinemann. Any further discussion? Okay, let's.
Real quick.
Yeah, question.
Just wanted to make sure, In terms of the staffing pattern for the work that we're doing, do you feel that we have adequate staffing to accomplish our goals?
We feel that we will in the next item. The next item will be related to the budget for the COG and our contract. So this is just the work plan that we hope to accomplish. And then next we'll talk about funding. So
Great.
if with the proposals that we're making, yes, if those are
Okay.
approved, then we think we have sufficient capacity to do this work. Thank you, council member.
Thank you, Oscar. So any further questions, comments? And I'm entertaining a motion.
We got-
Oh, we already had motion.
We had a
Yeah,
motion.
we already had. Yeah, sorry. Yeah. So that means we're going to vote. So everyone in favor say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Abstain? Motion carried. Thank you. Yeah. That moves us over then to the what we actually brought up here, Estolano Advisory's contract renewal and compensation for WSCCOG Executive Director Service for fiscal year 24-25. So you all seen the report we also discussed this at our last meeting, if you recall. And what sits in front of us now is really a suggestion based on that discussion. Some of you might recall that the COG, when we went into sort of economic issues, we cut the compensation. I think it was in 19, and then slowly has sort of brought it back. And the suggestion now is not fully bring it back to where it was before, but this is what been suggested that would work and would be enough to fulfill the work plan. So with that, I don't know if
I have a
Sure.
couple other
Yeah.
pieces of information I can
Yeah.
add so that the executive director doesn't have to present her own contract amendment. But there's two items before you. One is a 1-year contract renewal, and the second piece of it is an increase in the annual compensation for Estolano Advisors. In looking through the report, the Estolano Advisors hasn't increased their compensation since 2016, 2017. And the proposal would increase it from $10,000 a month to $12,500. If I have that correctly, and the treasurer has confirmed that that increase can be accommodated with the increased dues that were approved at the last meeting. So it's budgeted for, and the finances can accommodate that increase. The packet in front of you includes accomplishments from Estolano Advisors, and they are here to answer any questions as well as the staffing question that the council member from Santa Monica had.
Okay, thank you. Any questions, discussion? Anyone wants to make a motion to approve 1-year contract renewal and then approve the new compensation?
So moved.
We have a motion from Friedman and second from De La Torre. Further discussion? Let's vote. Everyone in favor say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Abstain?
Abstain.
We have an abstain from Heinemann. Okay, thank you. Motion carried. Congratulations. Moves us over to the annual budget for 24-25. That also has been provided in the package. I hope you looked at it, and it reflects the decision we did just before here. So and it reflects the new fees and charges that we have discussed. So any further comments from staff?
I'll move to approve.
Okay, we have a motion to approve from Heinemann.
And a second.
We have a second from Friedman. Any further discussion?
I just have
Yeah.
one question. You know, there have been instances here where there are opportunities to visit sites. So one city might be doing a project that might be interesting to other cities. And I'm thinking, is there anywhere in the budget where we might be able to, nothing big, but you know, some transportation, some lunch, if we wanted to coordinate sort of those types of tours I know every local agency is a little cash strapped. I don't know if there's anything in the budget that allows us to do that type
$50.
of thing.
Yeah, we don't, Councilmember, we don't have, I think if you look at the budget, it's like $50 in it for travel. Typically, I mean, we're imagining within the COG region, so that's why there's not much of a budget. I know there may be things outside of the region, but we've never budgeted for a travel budget beyond that. Yeah, they're just people going to meetings, frankly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
It's a good comment. I think it sort of makes sense. And I guess that for the next year, if we would like to do that, I think we have to go back to our individual cities and then ask for cover if there are expenses or what might happen. So
Great. It's good to know that because we start our fiscal cycle July 1st, and then so there's discretionary funding that we have for council. So I'll be very conscious of that we might, allocate some funding to do regional sort of site visits or collaborations of sorts, site tours that might be beneficial to all of us. So thank you.
thank you. Any further question, discussion? We have a motion, so let's vote. Everyone in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Abstain? Motion carried. Thank you. That moves us over to the election of new officers. And I need to find my paper. But anyway, so the COG has a 1-year term for officers, and that term starts July 1st and goes to June 30th. So this is my last meeting as chair. So I would like to say thank you to everyone. I think it's been a productive year, and we have managed to get through a few sticky issues, and we have had some county and other representatives here, and we have been able to state and make very clear our positions and our feelings and our needs for different county services. So I think it's been, for me, it's been a pleasure. It's been fun to work with you. And I would like to say thank you to our staff, because you don't see what goes on the background, but the staff is very, very good at keeping the chair updated and informed, and when needed, involved in preparation. So I would like to say thank you. I really appreciate your work. With that, I will then, we will start to elect a new chair, and then we go to vice chair, and then secretary, and treasurer is, I think that's a 3-year commitment, right? So that's our CFO at the city of Culver City, who's doing that, and she already has come with some suggestions for some fiscal issues fiscal improvements for the COG. So we might see that coming during the fall sometime as suggestions. So let's start. Traditionally, we rotate, as you all are aware of. So I hope this is not going to be a big issue. So for chair for next year, I would like to nominate Oscar de la Torre from the city of Santa Monica. And if I have a second for that, then
I will second.
we have a second. So any further nominations, discussions? Nothing. Okay, let's vote. Everyone in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Abstain? Congratulations, Oscar. And next meeting, it's going to be yours. So,
Thank you.
Start preparing.
Thank you very much. And we'll meet with staff. But before we finish this item, I just wanted to thank you for your leadership. You provided, just an effective and just peaceful style of leadership that I really appreciate. And so thank you very much for creating a welcoming space here in the West Side COG. And I hope to fill those shoes and continue that leadership.
Oh, I'm sure you will do fine. Yeah. So, and maybe you have we're going to move now to vice chair because that seat is now vacated. So maybe you have a.
Yes, I'd like to nominate the city of West Hollywood, Seth P. Shine.
Okay, we have a nomination.
She is not running for re-election, so her term will end in December. So I don't know if that makes sense.
Well, we had a similar situation for our city, where then I stepped in for Alex Fish when that happened, right? So either that mechanism that she serves until she's not a council member anymore, and then the COG will then elect a new vice chair, which most likely then whoever your representative would be, which probably would be you, I guess, but after election, you never know. So I would, it's really,
Right.
yeah.
Would it be appropriate to nominate the city and then whatever happens in the election, the city of West Hollywood then decide or it would come back to us?
We need a person, and I would suggest that we nominate her. She will serve 2 meetings, August and October, and then in October, since we know she's not going to run, it should be on the agenda to then elect a new chair, and she should submit her resignation, right, at that point. I would think that's the cleanest way to do it, if it isn't that the city of West Hollywood have already decided what you want to do, then please let us know.
I don't know. We haven't made decisions as to who will be the COG representative.
But that's
Yeah.
usually an annual item after an election where council members are appointed. to
So I
different
think we should go with
positions.
Steffi right now. I think
I
that's
think
the
so.
clean way to do it.
It makes sense, and it's also to respect the rotating leadership process. I think it'd be appropriate.
Okay, so any further questions, discussion there? Then I have a motion from Oscar de la Torre. Do you have a second?
I'll second.
Second from Lester Friedman. Okay, let's vote then. Everyone in favor, say aye.
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 Oppose? Abstain? Thank you. Then we then need a new secretary. And I would like to nominate Lester Friedman from the city of Beverly Hills as secretary.
Second.
We have a second. Any discussion, comments? Let's vote. Everyone in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Abstain? Motion carried. So that means that we now have a new leadership. So from July 1st, we have Oscar de la Torre as chair. We have Sefi Shine as vice chair. And we have Lester Friedman as secretary. Thank you, and congratulations, everyone. It's going to be a fun year
Yes, thank you.
because there is a national election.
That's what I was trying to find out, like what was going to be so fun about that, but anyway.
Yeah. Okay, great. That moves us over to executive director's report.
Yes, Mr. Chair, we will just skip this. It's the reports are in the packet. We know folks take a good look at it. We're rather just get right into the transportation update, if that's okay, but happy to answer any questions about what might be in the reports.
Okay, any questions? No question. We have a public comment regarding the executive report. Okay, let's see, and I'm gonna give you 2 minutes now.
Excuse me, sorry. Could you try to turn the mic, make sure the mic is turned on?
It's for the Zoom audience. Thanks, Jeff, if you can.
There should be a red button.
Thanks.
Thank you. Victor Omolchenko again. Thank you for this report. I'd like to bring up attachment B, the one where there's the working group on homelessness. Just recently, my neighborhood, my favorite deli yesterday, the New York Deli at the corner of Santa Monica Boulevard and Genesee across from our famous Tashman's Hardware, was shot up. I believe some people were injured. We don't have all the details, but it may have been done. First reports are saying from the sheriff's office that it was an unfortunate unhoused individual. So I realize that you're all working towards the issue of solving what appears to be this very intractable homelessness issue. In reading the attachment B, I saw tantalizing information about a visit that some of you did to Houston, where you found that Houston was doing things differently than we are doing here in Los Angeles County on homelessness, and that we could possibly learn from the Houston experiment. But as I read the report, I saw nothing that kind of clarified that for me. And there is mention of the county's Blue Ribbon Housing Commission, and that there was supposed to be a new leadership table established of people from, I guess, the COG and throughout the whole county, a leadership table that is supposed to address the issue of homelessness. So as a member of the public affected by the issue of homelessness, I would really like to have more information about what the status of this county leadership table is. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm not sure that I'm ready to answer for the county as such, but if someone wants to make a comment about the Houston trip, I wasn't there. I don't know if anyone here was in Houston. I know that our city manager was, but so yeah, I don't see anyone that in this group that actually was on that trip. So thank you for your comment. Any further comments? Then let's do the,
Connor
Oh.
Webb.
okay, Connor, you're online.
Yeah, this is Connor Webb again. Thank you for another chance to speak. This is in regards to, I believe, item 5A with the bus lanes. And I just want to say I fully support the implementation of bus lanes on the listed corridors and urge that it's, expedited as much as possible by the relevant agencies. There's a few points I wanted to make, though. And one is that, I see it included on the maps as part of this Pulveda UCLA corridor, but it's not explicitly named. So I just want to emphasize the county-controlled section of Wilshire through the VA as a major cause of bus slowdowns near the 405. The eastbound lane here was actually removed a few years ago from Federal to Bonsall, which certainly has not helped. And this will arguably become one of the most important sections of bus lanes on Wilshire following the D line phase 3 opening. Since the D line will be taking over a lot of the bus ridership. However, so many buses continuing west where the D line will not be going, will be stopping at the VA and then continuing to UCLA. Additionally, not included in the list of important corridors is Wilshire within Santa Monica boundaries. They currently end at Centinela. And so once the D line opens, anyone who's trying to continue, to Santa Monica or the beach will have to transfer to a bus here. And, not having bus lanes in Santa Monica on Wilshire, I think will be a huge capacity issue. So, seeing that addressed, I think would be great and especially important for the Olympics, where, you can expect a lot of visitors to be continuing to the beach or to Santa Monica for visiting. So, again, totally support the implementation of these corridors, but there's a few that I think are possibly missing or should be emphasized on their own as a separate corridor. Thank you.
Thank you, Connor. Any further online comments? I don't see any. Okay, good. That moves us then over to the transportation update. So who's going to do that today?
Yeah.
Okay.
That will be me today. So item 5, transportation updates, labeled 5A, but the A is meaningless here. It is the only transportation update. We will be discussing our sub-regional equity program funds, which is one of the other multi-year funds that we get from Metro that we've talked about in the past. And we had previously in 2022 voted to allocate the entire sub-regional program, sub-regional equity program fund for the entire basically 60-year period of Measure M. We have some of those funds available in the near term, so I will provide an overview of the near-term fund availability and how we could, how the Transportation Working Group has so far discussed envisioning the sub-regional bus lane network and how we may be able to design and actually build that network in time for the 2028 Olympics. And so I'll go over the corridor selection process, provide an update on that, and provide a A very preliminary, very rough estimate of the cost for shovel readiness, meaning the cost for design, engineering, and associated data collection and outreach. And then we will discuss the next steps, including a potential request for proposals and collaboration with Metro and other agencies to identify funding mechanisms, as well as a potential action item for months from now, multiple months from now, to actually program those SEP funds to actually spend those. So I will start by just, again, reiterating some of those caveats. This is not an action item. These are not the final corridors, the final bus lane segments, or the final cost estimates. These are very rough estimates. These are the corridors as they stand today, but they could change based on staff input. They are not and of course, elected official input as well. This is not a commitment to implement any bus lane segments, and we are also not requesting any additional funds from any COG member jurisdictions to produce this. Essentially, what we would like to do is figure out a way to spend some of these funds that we now have access to. The Subregional Equity Fund, as you may recall, provides over 100 or up to around $160 million, depending on sales tax revenue, through the 2040s and later, to provide basically funding for any transportation related project that would be within Metro's guidelines. And previously we had allocated 25% or $40 million to the Crenshaw Northern Extension pre-development. We had allocated up to $20 million or 12.5% to D-Line extension to Santa Monica pre-development, and we had allocated the rest, at least $100 million or 62.5% of that total, to bus rapid transit and bus infrastructure. Again, these funds are not fully available yet. They will mostly start kind of trickling through into the COG in the 2040s, but we do have a small amount of near-term funds available. And this is also a completely separate funding source from what Chelsea presented on earlier. This is different from the other MSP, which is going towards active transportation and first last mile. We've already allocated most of those funds. Right now, we're talking about the Subregional Equity Program funds, of which we currently have roughly $6.7 million available between now and 2028. So what we're talking about today is how we could potentially spend that $6.7 million and build something that would be very important and beneficial potentially for the 2028 Olympics and beyond. And just to give a more detailed breakdown of the $6.7 million, we have that split into 5 equal segments. The first being available right now and currently accumulating into the Subregional Equity Fund account. This is an account that Metro has access to. We do not have these funds at the moment. They are reimbursement-based funds. So we would basically have to pay them and then request reimbursement from Metro as they currently stand. But these are accumulating in Metro's West Side Subregional account. So that's $1.3 million for fiscal year 23-24, and then each fiscal year through to 27-28. And so I've shown this in previous meetings just to give you an idea of where our kind of high capacity rapid transit network is on the west side at the moment. Currently, we have the Expo line or E-line. We have a small segment of the K line or Crenshaw line near LAX, not fully to LAX yet. And then we have the D line or Purple line extension, which currently is, as many of you know, under construction. And so by 2028, we will have a much longer segment of that D line or Purple line extended to Westwood. We will have the K line extension complete with the connection to LAX. And we will have several LA 28 Olympics venues in our subregion, including the UCLA campus, Poly Pavilion, Riviera Country Club, Santa Monica Beach, and then right outside our subregion in Inglewood, the Forum and SoFi Stadium. I will note that we added the Forum and SoFi Stadium after the agenda packet went out. So that is the only change on these slides compared to what is in your packet are the Forum and SoFi Stadium. And so as you can see, we have some great east-west connections in 2028. We don't have many great north-south connections. So as we've talked about before, the clearest way to fill that gap is through our BRT proposals that we have in our 2020 West Side COG mobility study and 2021 unfunded strategic project list. You can see that these corridors actually cover many of our major arterials within the West Side subregion, and they would help connect UCLA and connect Santa Monica Beach to the rest of the Metro Rail network. They would cover many corridors, and so we recognize that starting with a smaller subset would be beneficial at this stage. So working with the Transportation Working Group, city staff, and staff from each member jurisdiction, we have landed on 5 priority corridors at the moment. Again, these can still be refined, and these numbers do not indicate priority. They are for labeling only. Lincoln Boulevard, Santa Monica Boulevard, La Cienega Jefferson, Sepulveda Boulevard, and Venice Boulevard. And with that, we also assessed which jurisdictions each of these corridors passes through and who actually has jurisdiction over that roadway. So this bluish green is the Caltrans jurisdiction, where they would actually have control over the final right-of-way. That's State Highway 1 for Lincoln Boulevard, State Highway 2, Santa Monica Boulevard. The pink is City of LA. So most of these corridors are within the City of LA. And those are actually each corridors that are now mandated to have some transit priority treatment through as labeled in Mobility Plan 2035, which was codified into implementation through any street resurfacing project due to Measure HLA, which passed earlier this year. And we do have several other corridors segments in Culver City, Santa Monica, and some very small but very important segments in Beverly Hills and West Hollywood and the County of LA. So just looking at these distances, these segments in a table format, this shows the exact length in miles of each segment within each jurisdiction. What is shown on this map here adds up to 38.7 miles of bus-only lanes. And that does include some Caltrans segments, some segments within the city of Santa Monica. And wanted to note that in our discussions with the Transportation Working Group, we have determined that Lincoln Boulevard may not need our sub-regional funds because basically Santa Monica and Caltrans via this, along with the city of LA, are already working on or already have bus lanes along that segment. Santa Monica Boulevard, west of the 405, also has a similar situation where Caltrans is studying bus lanes in the Caltrans right-of-way, and then Santa Monica is studying all types of safety treatments, including potential bus lanes, as part of their upcoming safety study. So we basically cross those out of our estimated mileage that may require sub-regional equity program funds for bus lane design. And based on that, we have revised our mileage down to 25.5. And thanks to Culver City, which is already kind of starting this process of designing and actually starting to build some of these bus lanes, they have provided us with rough estimates of total design and engineering costs, including associated data collection and outreach per mile. These costs add up to $385,000 or roughly $386,000 per mile. It's worth noting some of these costs may be more of a lump sum, so they may not necessarily increase with every mile. So we would be interested and welcome any additional cost estimates or any other considerations. Again, these are very rough estimates, but based on these estimates, We had in turn estimated around $2 million roughly for conceptual design across the entire network. And this is for the total mileage, not per mile. So around $2 million for conceptual design, around $8 million for design phase data collection and outreach, and then around $3.5 million, $3.79 million for engineering design, also known as plan specifications and estimates. That adds up to around $15 million of total shovel readiness costs. So that is more than the $6.7 million that we have available through 2028. But it is an amount that is subject to change, potentially subject to decrease based on, again, other types of cost savings or certain segments that may not need as much design or unique engineering. And based on that $15 million estimate, our next steps will be to continue to refine these cost estimates and to work with our transportation working group as well as Metro, who still controls these funds, to identify these funding mechanisms and also develop a request for proposals or RFP to identify a potential consultant that may be able to carry out this bus lane design, outreach, and engineering process. And so we expect to do that over the next several months through October. And potentially toward the end of the year, October or December, we may request COG board action to program some of our SEP funds to begin this design process. And this is a very similar process to our annual update that Chelsea from Fair and Fears provided today, where we would take basically an action item approved by the COG board would then go to Metro for a review process and then be approved by the Metro board. And so with that, I will take any questions.
Thank you. Questions, anyone? Comments? Yeah, we start with
No, go Oscar.
okay, Oscar.
You're our chair.
Just one, yeah, thank you. Just wanted to make sure, the rough estimate of total shovel readiness, there's no, this is all just planning. I mean, yeah. So we're not even pouring concrete yet. 385,000 per mile.
Yeah, that's the rough numbers we have currently, right? So yeah, it's sad to see.
And yeah, I'm just a little amazed by that, but I'm wondering, how do those numbers, is this based on like a current sort of cost of labor, cost of materials? Like how do we do this analysis to bring these numbers forward?
Sorry, my mic wasn't working. Yeah, that was a great question. New chair. Dorothy from City of Culver City Transportation. So just to clarify, this isn't just planning. It includes everything, including the environmental and up until shovel readiness. So it's actually a lot of phases, engineering and basically up to, 100% design. So it's quite a bit of work. And it also includes an assumption of robust data collection and community engagement throughout the entire process, which for a regional project, it does require quite a bit of community engagement. So it does seem like a big sticker shock, but to get to shovel readiness, to get to construction does require a lot of work.
I might also note that relative to other transportation improvements, it's actually pretty good bargain, which is really sad, but it's pretty efficient. I think just the meta narrative is you all could, by the Olympics, if we were able to figure out other funding sources, actually get this network done in the subregion by 2028. I think that's really the bottom line, and that you have a good start in $6.8 million of funding that remains unprogrammed that could help jumpstart this. If we can get the rest of the Metro Board excited about the West Side being able to put together a subregional bus network in an efficient manner, because remember, the Olympics are supposed to be car-free, maybe we can generate some activity and additional funding. I just want to put the underline under this, because on your own, it seems like a lot. Our point is you have a lot of venues. You're actually the gateway to the Olympics in many ways, since most visitors will be coming from LAX. So how exciting would it be if the West Side could sort of step up and show, we can do this, Metro, help us out, region, help us out. Sorry, Riley, I just want to make sure we get the main point across.
I just want to also add about the cost estimates. They also include robust design and planning for things like bus stop improvements, bus shelters. I think we heard from the city of West Hollywood, I think at the last meeting about the need for really important shade structures, as well as, these aren't just, when we came up with the data analysis to give to Riley for the cost estimate, Culver City really thought about like a much, a broader, not just paint on the street, right? When you're thinking about bus lane priority, these are comfortable, these are real robust bus, transit improvements to really get people to be using these transit improvements in a really seamless fashion that will connect to our regional rail system. So the cost estimate is, I guess, very robust.
John.
I'm just wondering, given Metro's challenges in maintaining safety, whether it makes sense to defer some of this until we have some greater confidence that people will be riding the buses and feeling safe on it. I would hate for us to make a lot of these improvements and still have the same challenges that are keeping at least some people from using the transportation that's available.
Very good point.
Yeah, valid point. We are in Culver City. We are just putting ambassadors on our buses.
Yeah, I also
to sort of change
Chair.
the perception.
I mean, this isn't necessary that we're building lanes for Metro buses. This is, these could be blue buses, they could be Culver City buses. This is the infrastructure to enable an efficient, seamless regional bus network. So I just want to be clear, I hear you 100% about Metro buses and Metro's operations.
What is
we can
grab a mic, please.
I know we are. And we apologize. We know we're running a little bit late,
Yeah.
so we'll go fast.
We're going to add another 15 minutes.
I'm going to talk quickly. Karen Swift, Deputy Executive Officer, Local Government. Thank you for the question. Just want to clarify that Metro ridership is up continually month over month for the last 17 months. So absolutely acknowledge safety and security concerns. We don't have time for me to give you the whole thing, but happy to come back or come to the Transportation Working Group to provide that update. We've been making the rounds. We were at LA City Hall a few weeks ago doing the same. So, but just do want to provide that caveat on ridership that it is going up and we are preparing for the future.
Yeah, I'll also add for the city of Culver City, we've seen a very impressive ridership return to pandemic. In many of our weekend routes, we are at almost 100% ridership. So that's basically at par with 2019 levels. And this is our bus system. So in fact, we've seen some data, done some initial analysis on how actually riders are more comfortable on the bus. Than potentially rail at this current moment. Of course, I'm not going to make any conjectures, but our Culver City bus system has really shown impressive gains in returning to pre-pandemic levels, and we're increasing service in order to serve. In fact, we're projecting that potentially our ridership will be more than pre-pandemic levels for weekend service for weekends, which is very impressive.
A comment. I'm hearing that the statistics show that ridership is up on Metro. That is certainly not the perception that is out in the public, that it is safe and that it can be ridden safely. So if that's true, if the numbers are showing higher ridership, it's not getting across to at least the public. The other issue I have is we're talking about, ready for the shovel. There's a significant gap between funding that seems to be available and what is going to be necessary. What are the potentials in terms of meeting that gap?
Riley, you want to?
Yeah, thank you for that question and for all of these comments. For new Secretary Friedman's question regarding, well, I did want to actually speak to very quickly the question around Metro versus Culver City Bus and Big Blue Bus. So corridor number 4 on this map, that is actually Culver City Bus line 6. That is Culver City Bus's most heavily used corridor. It's actually one of the most heavily used municipal bus routes in the county. Corridor 1 on the map is also a heavily used Santa Monica Big Blue Bus corridor. So wanted to quickly point that out. But to your question, Mr. Friedman, that is a very helpful point, and it does relate to some of our next steps, which are to identify the funding mechanisms. So we are actively looking at grant funds, and we will be continuing to explore and potentially applying for grant funds for which we can use our $6.7 million as potential match funding. We also do have $160 million, again, available decades from now, and there is a potentially there may be some options to, as we've talked about in other meetings, potentially accelerate some of those funds or work with Metro to at least close that gap, because we acknowledge that if there is that funding gap, we would not be able to design the entire network with the currently available funds, but there are many opportunities for local, state, and federal support for additional funds. So we're actively working on that.
Yeah, so well, staff should take these comments with you to the committee and hash them out. So when you come back, we might have some answers and some thoughts and so on this. And personally, I see that you know, building these are going to cost quite a lot when I see in our city. So we might need a priority list also. There might not be possible to do everything here. Maybe it's only 2 or 3 that there is money for. So that might be something that I would suggest that the working group starts looking at priority, which one would be the most, you know, reasonable to do first. Any further comments, thoughts?
Also a comment. Addressing our transportation goals, climate goals, community goals, safety goals is a very serious issue, and no problem is solved at the same level of consciousness that created it. I applaud the efforts here to expand our regional mobility networks. Thank you.
Thank you. So we're going to run 50 minutes late because I really want to hear the legislative comments here. But first, we're going to hear about the regional behavioral health facility, which is something that has been one of our priorities this year. To move forward, right? So this is something that we all feel that we want to get a good handle on what it would mean and how and so on. So please.
Yes, I'll be very brief since we're out of time. Next slide, Riley. So this is around implementing our regional behavioral health facility work. Right now, our staff is considering developing an RFP to retain a technical consultant. So with that said, we're thinking about forming an advisory committee to help identify that scope, as well as evaluate the proposals for the technical consultant, and as well as participate in a series of meetings where we would engage with the consultant to provide feedback and also provide recommendations to the board. So in working with the homelessness working group as well as the city managers, we're considering a committee that really builds on technical expertise on homelessness, mental health, substance use crises, and healthcare management. Next slide, Riley. And we even mapped out a few sessions where we would convene to discuss things such as potential site and cost analyses, identifying potential funding opportunities, future partnerships and operators. So with that said, we really looked at, next slide, Riley. We basically convene and develop a proposed list of representatives that would be on this advisory committee that we are bringing forth here today for the board to provide additional feedback. The goal is to come back here in August with a list of proposed but appointed representatives and establish that committee so that we can kickstart our work with the RFP for the technical consultant. Next slide, Riley. So building on the Blue Ribbon Commission on Homelessness, their leadership table governance structure, we basically took that list and refined it with the city managers and the homelessness working group. I'm not going to read the whole list here, but in the interest of time, and this isn't an action item, we welcome city staff and board members to take a look at this list and provide our staff with any additional suggestions. And then we will go back to our city managers and the working group to refine this list further and identify some potential committee members. Any questions?
I have a, you mentioned first responders and law enforcement, and in our city, not only the sheriffs, but the fire department often have to respond to individuals who are homeless on the street, who are having some kind of either physical or mental issue. And it seems strange that we don't have them in the mix here. It seems like that should be something that we should include as part of this advisory committee.
Yeah. Other questions?
Yes, I agree with that. And so if we need to make a formal motion to include that.
No, there's no motion, there's no action.
Yeah, we'll
We're
just
not,
take
no
the-
action.
take
item. So
the-
You're just taking it, you're just taking feedback right now.
Feedback, yes,
Thank you.
Great.
or comments.
Yeah, I have a quick comment. Well, first of all, this is very important work. I mean, I really thank Cecilia and her staff for making the application, the grant application for the Hilton Foundation. I think this is great. You know, this will really help us. Where are we on the decision on this? Do we know? We don't know yet.
Submitted a grant to the Hilton Foundation, just for background, to provide additional funding for this advisory committee back in April. So we're still waiting to hear back, maybe in a few months.
Great. You know, as stated in this report, the city of Santa Monica's behavioral health study team identified a significant gap in crisis care on the west side, and these findings are helping to inform the COG's behavioral health work. This is something that the city of Santa Monica has taken on to try to assess, identify, and we have found there is a tremendous need. I mean, we just heard one of the public speakers talk about an alleged shooting, an incident of violence that occurred, and we've experienced many of those in the city of Santa Monica. And so we know that people are falling through the cracks, and the system is broken in terms of people suffering from mental health, issues. And so we have identified a potential opportunity to expand crisis services on the west side now. The Department of Health Services is in the early stages of redeveloping the West LA Armory. So it's near the VA Center, to become a safe landing site, to include interim housing, higher level medical and mental health services, and triage beds for people experiencing homelessness. And this could be an ideal site to also include behavioral health crisis services. You know, we think that would be really appropriate to make that assessment. There could be a co-located crisis and step-down services, which is a best practice for behavioral healthcare. And land like this is very limited on the west side, and these opportunities do not become available often. So we hope that DHS will reconsider including much needed crisis beds at this site, and Santa Monica looks forward to reaching out to each of the cities to discuss this more with you. We think this is an important opportunity, and we would like to pursue that. And I think it'd be great for us as a region to be advocating for this type of site to provide these types of services.
Thank you. We will do our best to communicate with the county and other cities to see if this is a site that folks can get behind.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anything further? And Oscar, yeah, we see the same issues right now, that the behavioral health issues, there's nowhere, we don't have the capacity, and there is nowhere on the west side to, send them or move them or anything, right? So it's a big problem. So thank you for bringing that up.
Yes, for sure. I mean, we can't depend on incarceration as a solution to people experiencing, these issues.
Okay, well,
Here's our report.
Cruise report, and this is exciting. It's moving forward. So, stay at Hilton so we get more money. Let's see, legislation. There was a lot of stuff in that report. So please.
Good afternoon, board members. Jeff Kiernan with the League of California Cities. Yes, there was a very lengthy report from myself included in your packet. I want to make a few updates to that and a few updates generally. The budget bill that is actually, that does appear the main budget bill to be being taken up today in the legislature, AB 107. You may have noticed that you haven't heard about a budget deal from the legislative leaders and the governor. There hasn't been any sort of announcement. You may recall we have two new leaders in the Senate and the Assembly, so that they are still working on those details. If they pass this budget as expected today and it goes to the governor, he has until July 1 to sign it. Keep in mind, however, the governor in California has the line item veto for fiscal affairs, also called the blue pencil. So I'm actually going to, I just asked a question of my colleagues to find out how you as city officials can lobby the governor specifically for those HAP dollars that are in the legislature's budget, but were zeroed out in the governor's budget. It may be a good phone call or email to send to the governor's office, and I will try to get that information to you after this meeting about how you can reach out to his office. So that's what's going on with the budget. A new bill that I wanted to make mention of, the Los Angeles County Division did take a opposed position on AT&T's request to the California PUC to remove themselves as carrier of last resort. The CPUC, although they haven't taken the final vote, did put out a draft, essentially, that they were planning to reject that request. Legislation has just been introduced via the gut and amend process, which we never like to see, by Assemblymember McKinner. The bill is AB 2797 that would allow AT&T to, and actually any other carriers of last resort in the state, to use this legislative method to pull out of it. So I wanted to make you aware of that. Obviously, we only have a few more months in the legislative session, so this could move quickly. By the way, the CPUC is due to take that up for a final vote, I believe, on the 18th of next week. Couple of quick things here, statewide ballot measures. You may have noticed in the news, the California District Attorneys Association's measure that would repeal pieces of Prop 47 did qualify for the ballot in November this week. As part of that, the legislature, Assembly members Burr and our speaker Rivas, did announce that they intend to insert into 14 of the retail theft legislation bills. There's 13 in the packet I included today. I'm not sure where the 14th is coming from, but he was essentially putting in a poison pill to those pieces of legislation. He's going to make all of those bills will become urgency, meaning they will require a 2/3 vote. And they are going to insert a poison pill that says, should this DA measure pass in November, all of these bills would be repealed. So that's one thing that we had heard was happening last week. They still haven't amended that poison pill into those bills, but I would expect to see that coming. Then one more quick note here at the county level. Measure H 2.0, which I know we had a brief discussion of prior to the meeting with a few people on the side. That is likely to qualify in the next week. We've heard that that is expected, and I know the United Way LA and others have already been reaching out to COGS, and I've put them in communication with your executive director just to work on getting in front of this group should you decide to take a position on that ballot measure. Keep in mind, again, this would be a half cent to replace Measure H, and it would ignore your local sales tax caps just for this piece of this ballot measure alone, giving you back, should it pass, it would give you back that 1/4 cent that is currently taken out of your sales tax via Measure H, give that back to you, but of course it does add that half cent instead, should that pass. Otherwise, I'll note that AB 817 in the packet on the Brown Act, it's a bill that we've been pushing for sponsoring for a number of years now, trying to amend the Brown Act, trying to allow some flexibility for non-decision-making bodies. It doesn't do a lot for these groups, but that was held in committee. We have to look at it again next year. That's when those pandemic era flexibilities expire. So we're going to be, again, going back to the legislature, but they just haven't had any interest in allowing any flexibility for local governments or bodies like this COG to meet virtually. So that's something we're going to continue to work on. Other than that, two quick announcements. The July 8th legislative webinar that we're putting on. Join that if you're interested in some of these last minute goings around in the legislature. And then if you're coming to our annual conference in Long Beach in October, please do book it soon. Those hotel rooms are going fast. That's all I have, but happy to take any questions.
Thank you. Any questions?
Oh, great. Thank you.
Okay, no, thank you. And thank you for everything you do. Brings us over to announcement. Anyone has any announcement, any information that you want to share?
I would just like to thank you for your service and sharing these meetings. Thank you.
Welcome. Thank you. Yeah. Okay, that moves us over to future meeting agendas. Anything anyone has that you want to bring up? Otherwise, our next meeting is August 8th in Beverly Hills. So see you all there.
Public comment.
And then public comment is the last one, number 10. Any further public comments?
I'll make this quick. Viktor Omolchenko, thank you so much for your service from Culver City. And this meeting is a very interesting one. I know there's not a lot of public participation. I think the last one I was at was years ago with our former council member, Abby Land, when we talked about bike lanes along in our city and the interconnectivity with Beverly Hills. And Beverly Hills was in the process of developing its bike lane. So I really want to thank Culver City for giving us the estimate of about $385,000 for the shovel readiness for the bus potential projects, because besides being a bicyclist, I also use our good bus system. I do have to say I am somewhat concerned about riding the Metro rail at night from downtown to our area. It can get kind of testy, but that amount of $385,000 in Mr. Kernan's report, I see that there's a lot of stuff about the housing element. And I just was thinking it is so much about the money, and double that amount, the $385,000 for the shovel ready, double that amount to $750,000. And I understand that that's the amount that it costs to now build 1 unit of affordable housing in this county. I want to thank and congratulate the new board, Mr. Delatorre and Ms. Shine and Mr. Friedman. And as Mr. Friedman of Beverly Hills said, how are we getting across to the public what's happening with our transportation? How do we let the people know that it's safer to use the system and there's more people using it? And so what I'd like to just say is I'd like to do a shout out for our city clerk's office. I found out about this meeting on our city calendar, but I think that there could be more public participation. Maybe your contractor Estelano could do more outreach to the public for such meetings. And like I just reviewed our city council's meeting, and maybe when we have our city council meeting and we know that the city of West Hollywood is hosting your esteemed group, maybe we could do an announcement. This is watched on television, and folks, you'd have more public input, because as we know, democracy dies in darkness and we want more public participation. So thank you very much.
Thank you. And that brings us to adjournment.
We do have one more, sorry.
one
We have
more.
one more online public comment from Angela De Silva. So Angela, if you're still with us, you can unmute yourself now.
Hi, can you hear me? Yes. Okay. Hi. Hello, I'm Angela De Silva. I'm the executive director of the nonprofit Equal Means Equal. We are a 15-year-old Los Angeles-based nonprofit whose mission is getting the Equal Rights Amendment published into the U.S. Constitution as law as it was ratified by the 38 necessary states in 2020, but our then president blocked it. We are currently working on our final impact campaign, which is a nationwide multimedia campaign to show the public support of publishing the ERA, with the goal of urging President Biden to make the 3-minute phone call to the U.S. Archivist to publish the ERA. We are working with Inside Out and artist Shepard Ferry to create murals nationwide, and locally we have been talking to people from West Hollywood, LA City, and LA County. We are hoping to partner with the West Side cities where we can obtain public spaces that we could put our murals on, as well as receive provisions for the printing and installation of our Inside Out portraits, which are part of the mural. We are hoping that the West Side cities of Los Angeles can present a unified front standing up for equal rights for all people, regardless of sex and gender. We will be reaching out to you soon, and I can be reached at angela@equalmeansequal.org. Thank you, everyone. Hi, John Howman.
Thank you. So, anything else? Seeing none, that brings us over to adjournment. So I can entertain a motion to adjourn. I have
To adjourn.
We have a motion from De La Torre and second from Heilman. So meeting adjourned. All right.
Thank you so much, Oren.